A very good morning, students. Welcome to science session for class 10. And today we are going to see a very interesting lesson in biology. That is unit 16, plant and animal hormones. Now we are learning about hormones in this session. And now this hormones is classified into plant hormones. In the plant hormones there are 5 major classes. And now in this session we will be learning about auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins. A very good morning, students. Welcome to science session for class 10, and today we are going to see a very interesting lesson in biology, that is unit 16, plant and animal hormones. Now we are learning about hormones in this session. And now this hormones is classified into plant hormones. In the plant hormones there are 5 major classes, and now in this session we'll be learning about auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins, abscisic acid and ethylene. And now when we talk about the animal hormones, now in this lesson we have endocrine glands, which consist of the pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, pancreas, gonads and thymus. So this is what we are going to deal in this session. Let's go into the session, children, because this will be a very interesting lesson. Now, first we'll understand what is hormone, children. The word hormone is nothing but to excite, and this word is derived from Greek. It is a Greek word. Hormone means to excite. Now, what is plant hormones? If you see, it is nothing but the control and the coordination in plants. Now, how this control and coordination takes place? This is done by a chemical substance that is produced by the plant, and this chemical substance that is produced by the plant is called as the plant hormones. And there are several cells that are capable of producing these hormones, and these are transported to different parts of the plant, and this performs or controls the physiological functions. Human system, if you see, the endocrine glands coordinate the physiological activities as well as the metabolic function. Now how it is done? It is done by a chemical, that is the integration of the physiological activities and the metabolic function is done by the chemicals, and these chemical acts as a messenger, or you can say these are the chemical messengers, and these chemical messengers are nothing but the hormones, right? And these are secreted by a special glands which is called as the endocrine glands. So this produces the hormones. Now if you see, for example, digestion, metabolism, growth, development, reproduction, all these are controlled by the hormones. Now in this session we'll be learning about the plant hormones separately and the animal hormones. First we'll see the plant hormones. Now we said that these hormones are nothing but the organic substances or the molecules, and these are required in extremely very low concentration, because usually the hormones are required in very low concentration, both in the animals as well as in the plants. Now these molecules, what do they do? That is, the organic molecules, or you can say hormones, control the physiological activities, biochemicals response, you can say, or the morphological activities. Now these plant hormones, especially in plants, it is divided into the growth promoters or growth inhibitors. What is growth promoters? As the name indicates, it promotes the growth. It helps in growth of the plant. Now growth inhibitor, in the sense, it resists or it arrest the growth of the plant. Now if you see the major classes, the plant hormones are divided into auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins, abscisic acid and ethylene. Now in this, the auxins, cytokinins and the gibberellins comes under growth promoters, and ethylene and abscisic acid comes under growth inhibitors. That is, it inhibits the growth, it arrests the growth. Is it clear? Now let's see these major classes of the plant hormones one by one. The first one that we are going to see is the auxins. Now auxins was the first plant hormone that is discovered. Now this term auxins means to growth, and these are produced at the tip of the stem and the root. Now let's see the picture. Now look into this picture, children. Here you can see this auxins. Now I said that these auxins are produced at the tip of the stem and the root, isn't it, from which they migrate to the zone of elongation. Now what do you mean by zone of elongation? The point where the growth occurs, for example the tip of the stem or the tip of the root, where the root elongates, isn't it, and the stem elongates, isn't it. So these are produced at the tip of the stem and the root, and they enables the growth of the stem and the root. Now here you can see the auxins, isn't it. Here you can see the auxin molecules, isn't it, that is produced at the tip, isn't it. Now Charles Darwin observed the growth of the canary grass, just the simple grass, and that is especially in the canary grass coleoptile. Now he concluded that some sort of the substance is transmitted to the tip of the coleoptile, and this is responsible for the growth, and this influence was later identified as this is nothing but the hormone that is secreted by the plants, and it is called as auxins, and this was done by the scientist who is called as the Wormald Wendt, and this experiment is done to demonstrate the existence of the auxins or the effect of auxins in the plant. And he did a variety of experiment, or you can say a series of experiment in the Avenocoleoptile, and his first experiment is to remove the tip of the Avenocoleoptile. Now look into the picture, children. Here you can see the experiment. You can understand the experiment better. Now here you can see the tip of the plant, and this consists of the auxins that is present, that is the coleoptile, the slides of coleoptile you can see, and here is the auxins are present, which is responsible for the growth of the plant. Now he did a series of experiment. In his first experiment, he cut the tip of the plant. Since the tip of the plant is cut, it do not grow, indicating that the tip produces some essential substance or the hormones that is responsible for the growth. And now in the second experiment, he placed a transparent cap, cut head, or the decapitated coleoptile tip, and this also shows that it do not show any response to the growth. On the third experiment, here he placed the coleoptile tip on the agar blocks. Now here you can see the agar blocks, isn't it? So these are the agar blocks. Now above the agar block is the coleoptile decapitated tip. Decapitated tip in the sense the cut or the tip of the plant is cut and it is placed on the agar blocks. Now what will happen after an hour? He observed that the discarded tip and placed this agar on the decapitated tip, isn't it? Now it grows straight up, indicating that there is a secretion, isn't it? It diffuses from the agar block into the plant. It diffuses from the cut coleoptile tip into the agar block, and it again started the or you can say stimulated the growth of the plant, and the plant starts growing. So this is how the experiment is done, and from this experiment he concluded that the chemical diffuses from the tip of the coleoptile into the plant is responsible for the growth of the plant. And he said that the auxins are nothing but the promoters of the growth, or the name auxin is to grow, and this is nothing but the Wendt experiment. The auxins are classified into two types, that is natural auxins and synthetic auxins. Now natural auxins are produced by the plant naturally, and it is called as natural auxins. The example you can say it is IAA. Now what is IAA? IAA is nothing but indole 3-acetic acid. So it is indole 3-acetic acid, so it is called as IAA, and this is one of the example for natural auxins. And if you see the synthetic auxins, it is artificially synthesized, it is artificially produced, so it is called as synthetic auxins. And if you see the examples of synthetic auxins, it's again 2,4-D. So this is the formula for 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid. So this is nothing but the synthetic acetic acid, and 2,4-D indicates 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acids. Now, having seen the types of the auxins, let's go into the physiological effects of auxins. How do it affects the physiological activities? Now let's see the first physiological activities of auxins. Auxin promotes the elongation of the stem or the root, and coleoptile, which makes them growth, or you can say the tip of the plant elongates, isn't it? The coleoptile tip elongates, isn't it? So this is only because of the auxins that is present at the tip of the root or the stem, and it induces the root formation even at low concentration, or even if there is a low concentration, it induces the root formation, and it inhibits at the higher level. Now what do you mean by it inhibits at the higher concentration? It inhibits in the sense it arrests the growth of the root formation at the higher concentration level. The next one is the apical dominancy. Now what do you mean by apical dominancy? The auxins that is produced by the apical bud suppresses the lateral dominancy, or you can say the growth of the lateral bud. Now here you can see that this is the apical bud, isn't it? So this auxins that is present at the apical bud suppresses the growth of the lateral bud, that is, it inhibits the growth of the lateral bud. Now here in this picture you can see that the lateral bud elongates, isn't it? Now here you can see the growth, isn't it, the lateral bud. But why it is elongating, the lateral bud is elongating? Because the apical bud is removed. Here at the top you can see that the apical bud is removed, isn't it? So the lateral bud elongates, or the lateral bud growth is seen in this plant. So if you see the auxins produced at the apical growth suppresses the growth of the lateral bud. It inhibits the growth of the lateral bud, so that is called as the apical dominancy. The next one is the parthenocarpy. Now what do you mean by parthenocarpy? The seedless fruits that we see. Now why these seedless fruits are formed? They are formed without fertilization. So since they do not undergo fertilization, the seedless fruits are formed, and these are induced by the external applications of the auxins. So those are called as parthenocarpy. And example, you can say watermelon, grapes, lime. You can see seedless watermelon, seedless grapes, and the lime, isn't it? So this auxins are responsible because they are induced by the external application, right? And the next one is the auxins prevent the formation of the abscission layer. Now what do you mean by abscission layer? Now abscission in the sense the inhibitor, that is, it inhibits, isn't it? So it prevents the formation of the abscisive layer. So this auxins is called as the growth promoter because it promotes the growth, isn't it? So it prevents the formation of the abscission layer. So these are the physical effects of the auxins, and the physical effects of the auxins are very important. Now this is often asked in the 4-mark questions, and there are 5 physiological effects of the auxins. Now you can refer page number 231 for this. The next one is the important hormone, that is cytokinins, right? So cytokinins, cyto means self, kinins means division, so it is called as cytokinins, and the main function is to promote the cell divisions, right? And this was first isolated in the sense it is separated from the fish, which is called as the herring fish sperm. From the sperm of the herring's fish, it is isolated. So it was first isolated from herring's fish sperm. And if you see this cytokines, these are most abundantly present in the liquid endosperm of the coconut. Okay, you would have observed, isn't it, the coconut? So the liquid endoform of the coconut, it is very most abundantly present. And if you see the effects of the cytokinins, cytokinin induce the cell division. We said the function is to promote the cell division, isn't it? And it induces the cell division in presence of auxin. Together with the auxins, it induces the cell division, and it also causes the cell elongation. Now cell elongation in the sense the cells get elongated, isn't it? It gets enlarged, isn't it? So that is done by the cytokinin, and both the auxin and the cytokinins is responsible for the formation of the new organ that is formed in the plant, and it also promote the growth of the lateral bud. Now we said that in presence of the apical bud. Now we said that the auxin suppresses the lateral bud, isn't it? But the cytokinin promote the growth of the lateral bud in presence of the apical bud. Even if the apical bud is present, it induces the growth of the lateral bud. And the application of the cytokine delay the process of aging in plant. This process is called as, or this effect is called as, the Richmond-Lang effect. So now this is a very important question, especially in 2 marks. They'll ask you, what is Richmond-Lang effect? Now the answer is that the application of the cytokine delays the process of aging in the plant, and this is called as the Richmond-Lang effect. Next we'll move to the gibberellins. Now look at the picture, children. Here you can see the grass, or you can say as in rice paddy crop, right? And the functions of gibberellins, if I say, especially in the rice crops, because it has a story behind it. Now Kurosawa is the scientist who observed the Bacarne diseases, and this is also called as the foolish seedling diseases, and especially in the rice crops. Now what did he observe? He observed that the internodal elongation. Now here you can see that the elongation takes place, isn't it? Now elongation of the internode in rice takes place, and they thought that it is due to the fungus which is called as the Gibberellia fugiculae. Now this fungus is the elongation for the internodal in the rice crops. But later he observed that an active substance is present in the plant which is responsible for the extraordinary internodal elongation, and he identified that as in gibberellic acid, and this is nothing but the gibberellins. That is, gibberellins is the most abundantly found plant hormone, and this is also responsible for the elongation of the growth. Now if you see the effects of the gibberellins, responsible for the elongation of the intergrowth, isn't it? Especially in the corn and the peas, if you see, the application of the gibberellins brings about the elongation of the internode. And if you see the roste plant, now here you can see the picture of the roste plant. So this is a kind of a plant, and this gibberellins, when this roste plant is treated with the gibberellins, you can see a sudden growth in the shoot system, isn't it? It induces the growth in the shoot system. You can see the elongation in the shoot system, isn't it? And you can see the flowering at the tip of the plant, and this is called as the bolting, right? And this is due to the presence of the gibberellins. And if you see the next function or the next physiological effect, it produces or it promotes the production of the male flower, right? And this is one of the major physiological effects of the gibberellins, and especially the monoecious plant. This production of the male flower takes place, and the gibberellins are also responsible for the break dormancy, especially in the potatoes, you can say. And the gibberellins are effective than the auxins, especially in the production or the development of the fruits, that is the parthenocarpic fruits without fertilization. You can see the tomatoes that is found without the seeds, isn't it? So parthenocarpic fruits are produced, or they formed, or the development takes place, and this plays a very important role. The next one is the abscisic acid. The next one that we are going to see is the abscisic acid, which is denoted by ABA. ABA is nothing but the abscisic acid. Now, this is nothing but the growth inhibitor. Growth inhibitor in the sense it resist the growth of the plant, and this hormone is also called as the stress hormone. Why? In the sense it increases the tolerance for the plant to various kinds of stress, so it is called as the stress hormone. And this question is also very very important. Sometimes it's asked which is called as the stress hormone and why, so you have to write the reason. Now this is found in the chloroplast of the plant, especially in the green leaves, isn't it? Now if you see the psychological effects of the abscisic acid, and this acid especially promotes the abscission, that is separation, that is the falling of the leaf, flower, fruit from the branches, you would have seen, isn't it? So this is due to the presence of the abscisic acid, and especially during the drought and the water stress, if there is a dryness condition, and it closes the stomata, so it causes the stomatal closure, right? Because a lot of water will be evaporated to transpiration, isn't it? So this causes the stomatal closure. So this is one of the most important effect of the abscisic acid, and it promotes the insane and the abscission, so that is also very important. Now what is insane? In the sense it promotes the insanes in leaves, in the sense it is responsible for the loss of chlorophyll. Now chlorophyll is the green pigment that is present, is it? Chloroplast. So it loses, and you can see the yellow color appearance in the plant, isn't it? So this is due to the presence of abscisic acid, and it promotes or induces the bud dormancy, especially during the winter seasons, and it is a powerful inhibitor of the lateral bud growth. Lateral bud growth in the sense the lateral buds appears, isn't it, from the main branch. So this inhibits in the sense it affects the growth of the lateral bud. So these are the physiological functions of the abscisic acid. Next one is the ethylene, and ethylene is a gaseous plant hormone. It is the only gaseous plant hormone. It is in the form of a gas, isn't it? So now this is also a growth inhibitor, that it arrests the plant growth, and these are mainly responsible for the ripening of the food. Here you can see in the picture, that is the ripening of the tomato takes place, isn't it? So the maximum synthesis of the ethylene occurs only during the ripening of the fruit. Ripening of the fruit takes place, especially apples, bananas, melons, etc. Now if you see the psychological effects of the ethylene, of course it promotes the ripening of the fruit, whatever it is, apple, banana, mango, etc. And it also inhibits the elongation of the stem, because its main function is to arrest the growth of the plant. Ethylene also fastens the senescence of the leaves, that is shedding of the leaves and the flowers, and it also stimulates the abscission layer in the flowers, fruit, leaves, etc. because this leads to the shedding of the flowers, isn't it? And it leads to the premature shedding. Premature shedding in the sense before it gets mature, it gets shedded out. Then ethylene breaks the dormancy in the bud, seeds, or in the storage organ. So these are the physiological effects of the ethylene. So far we have seen the auxin, cytokinin, abscisic acid, and the gibberellins, and at the last we have seen the ethylene, isn't it? So these are the very important plant hormones. Most of the question paper contains the physiological effects of the ethylene. Sometimes they may ask gibberellins, so all these are very very important. So see to that you learn the effects that is given in the book. Only few points are given under each heading, so this is quite easy to memorize. Next we'll move to the human endocrine glands. Right now we have seen the list of the endocrine glands that is present in the vertebrata, isn't it? Especially the vertebrate animals. Now the first one that we're going to see is the pituitary gland. Now here in the picture you can see the pituitary gland, which is attached in the hypothalamus by a stalk which is called as the pituitary stalk, right? And this pituitary gland, if you see, it is in pear-shaped compact mass, and this is located in the midbrain, that is attached to the hypothalamus by a pituitary stalk. Next, if you see the pituitary gland, it is consist of two lobes, I said, isn't it? So now this is nothing but the anterior pituitary lobe, and this is the posterior pituitary lobe. And this anterior pituitary lobe is called as the adenohypophysis, and the posterior pituitary gland is called as the neurohypophysis. Now, if you see the pituitary gland, this is the major endocrine gland in most of the vertebrates, and this is also called as the master gland because it controls all other endocrine glands that is present in the human body. Now, if you see the hormones that is secreted by the anterior pituitary glands, it includes the growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adenocorticotropic hormone, gonadotropic hormone, and the prolactin. So these are the hormones. Now let's see them one by one. The first one we said that is growth hormone, that is GH. This is called as growth hormone. Now, as the name indicates, it elongates the tissues of the body, cells of the body, isn't it? Because it stimulates the growth of the muscles, cartilages, bones, etc., isn't it? And it also responsible for the metabolic activities of the cell. Now, if the secretion of this hormone, especially the growth hormone, do not take place properly, or you can say the improper secretion of these hormones lead to dwarfism, gigantism, acromegaly. Now let's see them one by one. Now look into the picture, children. Here you can compare the height of the people here, and this is the decrease in the growth is due to the decreased secretion of the growth hormone in children, and this features, you can say, it leads to the stunt growth or delayed skeletal formation or the mental ability, sometimes very rarely. So this is called as dwarfism. So dwarfism is nothing but the defects that is due to the improper secretion of the growth hormone in the anterior pituitary gland. The next one is the gigantism. Now look into the picture, children. Here you can see the abnormal growth of than the normal people, isn't it? So this is due to the oversecretion of the growth hormone, and this leads to gigantism in children. And if you see the overgrowth of the body tissues and organs, and the individuals attain the abnormal increase in the height. Here you can see in the picture this particular human being is abnormally increased in the height. And the next one is the, now look into the picture, children. Here you can see acromegaly. Now this is not in the children but in the adult. This is due to the excessive secretion of the growth hormone in the adult, and it leads to the abnormal enlargement of the hands. Here you can see the example of an hand, isn't it? You can compare the normal hand and the acromegaly a person's hand, isn't it? Now here you can see the enlargement that takes place, especially in the face, hands, feet, head, etc. So you can compare this with the normal hand. Now the last two defects that I said, that is the dwarfism and the gigantism, takes place in the children, but this acromegaly especially is seen in the adults. So these are the conditions due to the improper secretion of the growth hormone. So this is about one of the hormone in the anterior pituitary gland. The next one is the thyroid stimulating hormone. Now this thyroid stimulating hormone controls the growth of the thyroid gland. Now here you can see that the thyroid gland is present at the throat, isn't it? So this controls the growth of the gland, the activities and the hormone secretions of the gland, and this is classified into T3 and T4, that is triiodothyronine and the thyroxine. So this we will learn very detailedly when we are learning about the thyroid gland. So this is one of the hormone that is secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. The next one is the adrenocorticotropic hormone, and this is represented by ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, right? This is associated with the adrenal gland, right? So it stimulates the adrenal cortex of the adrenal gland, and this is responsible for the production of its hormone, whatever hormones that is secreted by the adrenal cortex, and it stimulates the protein synthesis in the adrenal cortex, and this we will also learn very detailedly when we are learning about the adrenal gland. Next one is the gonadotropic hormones. So these are associated with the gonads, that is the reproductive hormones. So this facilitates, or you can say it stimulates development of the gonads, and this we will also learn when we are learning about the gonadotropic hormones. Then follicle stimulating hormone, if you see, I said these are responsible for the two, isn't it? One is the follicle stimulating hormone, the other one is the luteinizing hormone. If you see the follicle stimulating hormone in the male, it represents or it stimulates the formation of the sperms, and in female it stimulates the development and the growth of the ovary. Luteinizing hormone, and this especially in man, it promotes the Leydig cells that is responsible for the male secretion. The hormone that is secreted in the male is that the testosterone, and in female it causes the ovulation, and this is responsible for the secretion of the estrogen and progesterone. The next one is the prolactin. Prolactin is nothing but the development of the mammary glands takes place especially during the pregnancy, and also for the production of the milk after the childbirth. Next, we'll see the hormones that is secreted by the posterior pituitary lobe, right? And there are two hormones that is secreted. One is ADH, the other one is oxytocin. Now, what is ADH? ADS is also called as vasopressin, and ADH is nothing but antidiuretic hormone. The next one is the oxytocin. Now let's see first what is ADH. Now if you see the target, it targets the kidney tubules. In kidney tubules, it increases the reabsorption of the water. Now in 9th standard, you would have learnt that in kidney, the reabsorption of the water takes place. That is, all the nutrients, all the essential ingredients that is present are reabsorbed by the kidney tubules, isn't it? Now, so this reduces the loss of water through urine, and it is called as antidiuretic. Now, if you see the deficiency, if this secretes in a lesser quantity, it reduces the reabsorption of the water, and it causes the excessive urine output, which is called as polyuria, and this disorder is called as the diabetes insipidus. Since there is a secretion, less secretion of the ADH, it leads to the diseases which is called as the diabetes insipidus. Now if you see oxytocin especially, it is very important during the childbirth, because it helps in the contraction of the muscles of the uterus, and it also helps in the milk secretion from the mammary glands after the childbirth. Now children, so far in this session we have learnt about the plant hormone and one or two endocrine glands. Now in the plant hormone we have learnt about the auxins, abscisic acid, cytokinins, gibberellins, abscisic acid, ethylene, etc. In the endocrine glands we have learnt about the pituitary gland. Now in pituitary gland we said that this master gland secretes the hormones from the anterior pituitary lobe and the posterior pituitary lobe, and we have learnt about the hormones that is secreted by the anterior pituitary lobe, isn't it? So the growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, then the next one is adrenocorticotropic hormones, gonadotropic hormones, and the prolactin, isn't it? And if you see the posterior pituitary gland, we saw about the vasopressin and the oxytocin, isn't it? So this is about one part of this lesson, and in the next session we will be learning about the thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, adrenal gland, and the thymus gland. So your homework for today is in page number 241. You can find these two questions, children, under the long answer question. The first question is, name the gaseous plant hormone, describe its three different actions in plants. Which hormone is known as the stress hormone in plants? Why? We have learned about stress hormone, isn't it? So you'll be writing about this in this question. The next one is, describe an experiment which demonstrate the growth stimulating hormone is produced at the tip of the coleoptile. So for this you will write the vent experiment. So prepare answer for these two questions and write in your classwork and submit the classwork in the school office on Friday. See you in the next session, children, and we'll continue with this lesson in the next session. Thank you, children.